Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you may be listening to this recording of the podcast, the Business Hub podcast. I'm your host, Don Workman, and we're glad to have you with us. Hey, we've got a great guest today. We're going to talk about branding, but first, I want to kind of give a couple plugs. If you're interested in any kind of financial consultations, look at my website, wealthguardsolutions.us. I'll have it down here underneath me. And also, I just want to give you a little peek behind the curtain. Company I partner with, SLD Solutions, has produced a new app. And once it comes live, I will give you a code and you can download that for free. It's going to cover everything from budgeting. You need wills and you want to talk to somebody, you just do it on your own. You don't have to worry about somebody calling you. You'll make that arrangement on your own. But when that comes live, you're going to want to download this because even if you're young, you know what I mean, young in your own mind or heart, and you're trying to learn about budgeting or teach budgeting to others, it has a section in there for that. So be on the lookout for that. And we'll say more about that when it becomes available. All right. So today we're going to talk about branding. And I got to tell you, this person I've got brought in today is a powerhouse here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. She and I met at I believe it was a career networking group back around 2008, wasn't it? Over at Watermark? Something
Yeah.
like that. We were all, maybe everybody was frantic because everybody lost their jobs and everything like that. And there was a whole lot of different emotions going on with different people. And we kind of connected. And she was relatively new in
Mhm.
the graphic. You're originally a graphic designer, is that right?
Originally, yep,
Okay.
yep.
Well, and then we kept
Mhm.
touch, but then we lost touch. But, thanks to the social media world, LinkedIn and whatnot, we keep in touch. And then she's married, got a beautiful family. Her name is Miss Linda Bingle. I'm going to
It's
slaughter his last name. He's going to beat me up.
Igbinigie-Ayoade is good.
Ayoade, and she is the founder of LOI Agency, a creative firm dedicated to helping businesses build authentic, memorable brands that connects and convert. Linda's worked with companies in all sizes to determine their identity, clarify their message, and stand out in the marketplace. He's passionate about helping small to medium businesses and tell their stories with confidence and consistency. I'd like to welcome Miss Linda.
Hello, happy to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. The Business Hub is a tool you're going to find that no matter how big or small, is something we want people to walk away, a little takeaway, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And I think we've
True.
all learned that along the way, no matter what industry or what level. And I'm thankful that you were able to join us today. I know you stay busy. So this is something I want folks to understand. This isn't something you have to do. Branding is important, and we know that a lot of small business owners don't have that advertising budget. And we know that you know, you want to do things, but everybody wants to be the billboard. You got the NFL, Major League Baseball. To have your name in the outfield wall of Globe Life Park or Dodger Stadium or Yankee, wherever you may be, would be a dream. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It would be a dream for me as a small business owner. But we got to start, an elephant, if you're going to eat an elephant, you got to eat one bite at a time. You can't eat the whole
Mhm.
thing. We're going to delve into some questions. So the first
Okay.
question we're going to talk about is misconception. Now,
Mm.
you've helped businesses in all kinds of industries shape their identities. From your experience, what are some of the biggest misconceptions business owners have about their branding?
Think it's value and ROI. Truly, most small to medium-sized business owners, if they go online or they're looking at an ad, they are tend to be sold marketing assets. I would say branding assets and marketing services. So, for example, hey, we can help you with your SEO. We can help you get this many clicks, things that are more push, do this ad, put this billboard, be a, sponsor at this event. But I tell people when you're building your brand, it's much like planting a seed. If you were to plant an apple tree versus going to go buy apples at the store, apples at the store, instant gratification. You go there, somebody else picked it, but you're at the mercy of whatever they have at the store
Yeah.
and however the conditions that it is at the store. But when you build a brand, it's more like planting a tree. So you put the seed in the ground, you have to watch it care for it, and it may take some time before it yields fruit, but you'll eat for a lifetime and you can create more apple trees. I will say misconception is that small to medium sized businesses actually believe that they're investing in their brand, which they're really just kind of going to the grocery store for branding assets and marketing, services. So they're at the mercy of the grocery store versus big brands tend to plant their own apple trees to where they're creating something. It may take some time to build, but once it's built, it can feed you for a lifetime and it can grow other assets that allow for more control, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. It's kinda like the
Yeah.
old adage about you give a person, uh, a glass of milk or you give them a cow.
Mhm. Mhm,
So,
mhm.
that's such a
Yeah.
great point. I think a lot of business owners, especially those running smaller operations,
Yes.
tend to equate branding with just their logos and their website, thinking that's gonna
Yes.
be it. I mean, I've been guilty of that in the past, not gonna lie. But like we said, you don't know what you don't know,
Yes, very
and
true.
things like this is gonna be very useful. Okay, so the second question, in your view, what are the deeper elements that truly define a strong brand beyond just the visuals?
Yes, I will say it's people's ability to remember you far beyond the products and services that you sell, but the emotions that you give them. You kind of get past the point where you're trying to sell the best product or service. It's that you are who people are seeking after because they like you or they like your brand. So every big business that has become a brand, like truly a brand that we know, a name that we know, is leveraging off of an emotional concept. They've passed the product or service method and now they're into emotions. It's a household name, it's someone we recognize, it's someone we trust. That's why if you see some of these commercials, they will get more to your emotions than they get to the products and services that they sell. So Nationwide is on your side. What does that mean when it
Right,
comes to insurance or finances or anything like that? There is an emotional appeal that they're getting to. They're, in household name. Nike is telling you just do it. That's not a shoe anymore. That's telling you, hey, you can achieve your dreams. You can become something that you're not today. So at the end of the day, I tell a lot of small to medium sized business owners, don't forget the importance of also the emotions, the experience that people are interacting with your product or service. Even though big companies, yes, they spend multi-millions there, it doesn't mean that you can't infuse some of that into what you're doing now. Like, how do people feel? Are they remembering you not just for you're the best alone, but hey, I like you. I love being associated with you. That is huge. And I think a lot of business owners take for granted that piece of branding, which is beyond just the visual elements and the websites and business cards and things like that. Yeah.
That's great. It kind of on the flip side of this, one thing that is very important, what I do in order for me to get that sit down with the clients to be
Yes.
likable and they got to know trust you,
Yep.
right? But then again, this is a three-headed coin. Not sure if that's possible. But then we've seen things in the news where these big brands do things from political pressure or from
Yeah.
whatever, and this brand that may have been out there for as long as we can
Mhm.
remember, but all of a sudden, their brand is taking a hit. And, I think consistency comes into this
Yeah.
and keeping your business, keep your principles, but keep your clients in the forefront of whatever you do to what's going to affect them and best serve them. So that's pretty
100%.
awesome. So
Yeah.
for a business that's ready to refresh, what
Mhm.
are the first steps you recommend to strengthen or revitalize the brand identity?
That's actually a good question, but forgive me, you actually brought up a good point, so I'm gonna
Oh,
ask you to ask me that again. I didn't wanna skip over it.
okay.
Right now, you actually hit on a key point that even big businesses with as much money as they have become very as a conglomerate disconnected from people. Capitalism, what's bad about it when it becomes the driver, you forget why capitalism works, and it's the people. So a lot of these big brands, the reason why they're having trouble right now is because they're more connected to the money than the people. So they're trying to leverage their brand off of trends versus leveraging their brand off of what made people fall in love with them in the first place, which is the emotion emotional connection that the people who buy from them have. And those people are who they have forgotten to serve. Just the same way the bigger brands are having trouble, it's the same way smaller brands, if they borrow the same thing, would have that same trouble too. So you recognize something very key that some of the biggest brand strategists in C-suite corporations are missing out on. So that was huge. I didn't want to gloss over that because that was such an amazing observation that a lot of people see but don't really know like what that is.
Well, I appreciate that, and
Yeah.
I think that I'm gonna give that to, part of my when I was in college, I did a major
Mhm.
e-business, but I went back to school later,
Mhm.
right? And part of it was e-commerce when it was a new thing. I
Mhm.
teach
Mhm.
marketing, so the marketing thing, I just every once in a while pull stuff from that without knowing it, so I
I was
just
like, "Well, you pulled it today." And I mean, there are a lot of big corporations that need you because they have actually lost that, believe it or not. I mean, you would
Yeah,
think it would be obvious, but they know, but they don't know. The capital is screaming too loud that they like, and I tell people this, I say, build your brand. You can leverage off of a trend, but do not build your brand off of a trend. So, yes, there may be a political issue that's in. Yes, there may be, something that's in. Let it line with your brand. Don't go the other way around. Too many brands kind of flipped on the political end. If the politics is over here, then they're over here. And then when the politics is over here, they're over here. But they forgot people are watching you to see your consistency. That's why brands like Chick-fil-A are doing very good because they've stayed relatively near the same location as far as morality. Like people will forgive you even if they don't agree with you. They would rather you stand for something than falling for every single, trend
right.
that is moving around. And again, that's that disconnect that a lot of, bigger brands are kind of suffering from.
I think you bring a great point up that
Yeah.
trends are gonna change,
Yes.
but your customers' buying habits, you use Chick-fil-A, your buying habits are gonna be the same
Mhm.
unless you do something crazy.
Yes.
We might
Yes.
get off on a little bit of a rabbit trail, but if you know me, I love the rabbit trail and I can go down a
Yes.
rabbit hole like the with the best of them.
Yes,
So,
but I think it's a good topic, but, don't
yeah,
let me stray you. I mean, I think it's
um,
something that people need to hear,
yeah,
and hopefully this next question, I will get a chance to dive into the
yeah,
opportunities that small to medium-sized businesses
sure,
don't know that they have specifically in this time of transition.
okay,
But I'll let you continue. I'll probably end up getting into
okay.
it one way or another.
That's okay. All right. So we're gonna read. I'll read that question for you again, so
Okay.
we can dive into that. For a business that's ready to refresh, what are the first steps you recommend to strengthen or revitalize the brand identity? Which I think this could be a good one. So I'm ready.
Yes, this is actually very good. And I tell people, number one, invest in strategy before implementation. I think a lot of small to medium sized businesses will get a business card, get a logo, get I don't know, tablecloths or whatever, they're using to promote their brand or brochures before they get strategy. Strategy tends to be one of the number one neglected things with small to medium sized businesses when it comes to branding. They just assume, okay, it should look like this. This is my favorite color. So I'm going to, use this color. These are, the kind of clients I want. They assume they know, the intricacies of what will help them with their branding, but I say start with strategy first. Start with understanding what makes you sell, what people are looking for. Start with that understanding first. And that's what we do with our clients in our agency. We start with that map before we start driving.
That sounds like it's a paramount. Like this has to be done before you're done. I mean, you can have the prettiest colors in the world, but if you don't have a strategy on how you're gonna see,
Yes.
this is gold, folks.
Yeah.
I hope that those even if you're not a little business, medium-sized business, we
Mhm.
sometimes get lost in the weeds of what we're doing. How do we
Yes.
get this in front of people? But if you've never had a strategy, it's like a football team. If you
Mhm.
don't have a game plan, what you're gonna do,
Mhm.
how are you gonna beat your opponent?
Yes.
I think the Dallas Cowboys might have this problem on defense, but
Yes.
another topic for another show.
Yes, but
Anyway,
I mean, I would say still translates, and I tell people this, I've had business owners come up to me and say, "Well, I've been able to get this many sales and I'm just now hiring you, or I just now am bumping into you, but I've already been able to sell things. My business has been working. So why would I need strategy first? I'm coming to you for design, and that's what you should do. And I tell people like this, I can almost guarantee you, you've wasted gas. So even though you've been moving and it seems like it's like this. If someone asked me to drive to New York today, I know enough about the direction on a map of where Texas is and where New York is to kind of head in that direction. And maybe I may or may not hit New York, but the roads and landmarks that I'm gonna miss along the way, the potholes that I may hit, missing
Right.
all the wasted gas, and I don't know the best route. So that's why I tell people strategy is important because even if you may know the direction, let's say you are right. And in many cases, some people are and some people aren't. I will say more aren't than are, but you're going to waste a lot of gas going the route of experimentation. And I tell people the economy is so bad, you don't want to experiment with what works and what doesn't work. And a lot of what is sold to small to medium sized businesses, hey, instant gratification. So it's like, hey, you want more clicks? I'll give you more clicks. Hey, you want a logo? I'll give you a logo. Hey, AI can do this and I can do this faster than this one. And I tell people at the end of the day, if your goal is to be a household name, if your goal is to actually receive ROI on these investments, then you need a map that's going to actually show you how to get there. And then you need a guide if you don't know how to drive to actually help you get to your destination. You can go by car, you could go by, bicycle, you can fly, but it's the direction. So
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
that is very critical.
What brought to mind is a car that's been, it's runs, but it's making weird noises. And
Yes.
I don't know how much you know about cars. I'm not a mechanic by any stretch, but this part I do know. If you drive a car and it starts maybe sputtering a little bit, and if you've got a fuel injector, you put in some gum out or Lucas, you go to just your local convenience store
Mhm,
and put this out. It cleans the fuel injector out. So there's more fuel that gets to the engine. Your ride is smoother. So I think that what you're saying makes sense to the point that, yes, you might be doing some decent work, but
mhm.
what are you missing out because your strategy is not in place? So I think that's very important. Thanks for that.
No, thank you. I mean, it's so easy talking to you. You'll be surprised. There are some people like, no, 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 I've been doing this and I didn't hear that on TikTok or I didn't hear that. My person who's doing my SEO has never told me this. And I tell them, hey, I do work for like HBO, Frito-Lay, and McDonald's. I'm just giving you what they have. So
Yeah.
if they've been around for a while, so maybe it may help.
And there's something too that a lot of people are used to the familiar. And when something comes from
Yeah.
outside, I mean, I have that all the time. How come I've
Mhm.
never heard of this? And
Mhm.
we have programs that help people protect their principal and
Yeah.
tax strategy. You go through the thing with them and they're like, how come I never heard of. I was like, you know what? Most people haven't. And just because you haven't
Mhm.
heard doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just you haven't heard of it. And we were
Very
never
true.
taught this in school. So I think that's pretty awesome. And it would behoove people, behoove is that's a good word. Yeah.
Yes,
Behoove
behooves.
to take your advice because as a small business owner, these little tips would be very, very beneficial if you're trying to grow a business and
Mhm.
eventually say if you want to franchise,
Mhm.
because
Or
there's a lot of
sell.
franchise we see come and go, and for whatever reason, I
Mhm.
don't know, and I'm not here to judge, but you question listening to what Linda's telling us that
Mhm.
maybe the strategy went awry somewhere along the way.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
got caught up in trends. They did this. They did that. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I think it's important. I think that that's some great information.
No.
Okay. I think we've got one more question for you.
Okay.
I know you're busy. How does consistency in branding from marketing to customer service shape the way customers perceive and trust business over time? I think we may have touched this a little
Mhm.
bit, but now you get a chance to talk about this.
Yes. I think consistency is the best way you can brand yourself. That's visual consistency, even the experiential consistency, like what your clients experience with you, consistency and how you deliver. If you're delivering in excellence, keep that going. Like people love what they can trust, and consistency builds trust the quickest, especially when it comes to building your brand. So I tell people not only will consistency help your clients trust you, love you, want to buy from you or use your products and services more, it also will help you in your systems because your systems are repeatable, meaning that your ability, like people who want to create franchises, like let's say if it's a restaurant, but they never write down their recipes, they don't have a standard to which they cook. Every time someone comes to the restaurant, they could be eating a different meal because this time there's, a teaspoon of paprika versus, just a little pinch of paprika. Like they're if you're not consistent, people won't want to go, even if you have the best, meal because they don't know what is it going to taste like this time. If they know that that taste is consistent, they want to come back. I tell people visually it's the same thing. You don't want to see your logo looking one way over here and then it's different on your billboard or okay, now all of your website looks great, but now I go to your brick and mortar location and it's horrible or the opposite, like it's those things that create customer experience and at the end of the day people are being attracted to you as a brand, experiencing you as a brand when they're taking all the different facets of your business, putting that together to create the sum of how they're emotionally connecting with you. And if you don't have consistency, you're missing out on the opportunity for people not just to like what you do, but to like you and to connect with you and to trust you for whatever is attracting them to you, not just by skill alone, but also through just the power of just being you as a brand in their experience with you. So I will say this, most business owners do not hear things like this. And I'll tell you why, because I know Don, you were talking about that before. And I tell my clients this. It's something I watched from a comedian. He said, beware of people who leverage off of your ignorance when they're giving you information. They're leveraging off of your ignorance. They're not going to give you the full story. If someone just needs to sell their product, they're not going to want to help you if you're not going to work with them. So just be very leery of people who are leveraging off of the things that you don't know. So
Wow.
that's what I have for that.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
that's huge, folks. It is important because there are people who do prey on others, and, I gotta tell you and something I think about, if you get involved in
Mhm.
your local community networking group, whatever,
Mhm.
there's opportunities for you to interact with people and not in a business sense, because a lot of people wanna know you on a personal level. Now, you know
Yes.
this as well as I do. Here in Dallas-Fort Worth, we got over 8 million people live in this region, and there's, as many real estate agents as there are per block, there's financial professionals per block. There's probably advertising agencies per block. You have to find your client that's going to be the best fit for you because
Mhm.
there's going to be people you're not going to want to work with who work better with Joe Blow down the street. And that's
Mhm.
okay because
Mhm.
there's enough to go around.
Yes.
But the best part you brought up is, you have to be genuine.
Mhm.
Your brand has to be genuine, be preying on people's ignorance because that is just bad business.
Mhm.
So,
Very true.
it made me think of, I don't know if you've seen the movie Josie Wales. I'm a love old westerns.
No, I have not.
It's, during World War no, sort of Civil War, and they're trying to
Mhm.
cross the Mississippi and Missouri because it's still kinda held by
Mm.
the the Union troops. There was
Mhm.
this guy who was he was selling ointment. And he was
Mhm.
trying hard to sell Josie Wales this, and finally, Josie just looked down at him and spit some chewing tobacco on him and says, "Will it get that out?" Because, it's that whole kinda really high pressure stuff, and so we're trying to avoid that
Mhm.
when we can, and
Yeah.
those kind of stories just kind of make me laugh, like, "I don't wanna be like that guy." And there's other anecdotes for movies that I can think of, but we won't take up all our time for that. You've brought some fantastic insights, Miss Linda, and I am so glad you joined us. I appreciate
Thank
the way you
you.
broke down the branding into something that's both strategic and relatable for small to medium sized businesses. And before we wrap up,
Thank
what's the best way for listeners to connect with you and learn more about the work you do at LOI agencies?
Yes, well, you can go to loiagency.com to see our work, but if you want to link directly with me, you can go to IamLinda-Ayoade.com. And I know it's a hard name, so I'll try to spell my first name, Linda, Linda, and my last name, Ayo. So that's and then AM, LindaIoade.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we do again appreciate your time.
Thank
Um, and thanks to all our listeners for tuning to the Business Hub podcast. I'm your host, Don Work, reminding you to keep building, keep branding, and keep moving your business forward. Thanks.
thank you.